Okay, so for this tutorial, I'm going to talk a little bit about animation. Some of you have stuff that you're going to want to animate for your levels, for your scenes, and a lot of times people get a little worried about the amount of things they have to animate, like gears or floating objects in space, stuff like that. Some of it you could do through code if that's what you're inclined to do, and that does work really well. But sometimes you need to animate your own stuff. And a lot of times you can find a very modular and reusable way to use animation as opposed to doing everything super custom. So let's take a look at a couple different things that you can do. So first off, we're going to do like a space one, like a floating anti-gravity, whatever, right? You need objects to float in space, right? I want stuff just to like bob up and down, maybe rotate a little bit, whatever it happens to be. We did this a lot in like Lost Orbit and Rocket Rumble and stuff like that. I don't want to animate my stuff all the time, but I do want things to have a little bit of motion. So what I'm going to do is in 3D Max, I'm going to create myself an object that I can animate. And it's just going to be a cube. I don't care what it is right now. It could be whatever the heck. I just kind of want the general motion of things to be going down. So I'm going to create myself a tiny little rig here. I'm going to create a dummy. This is just going to be my root object. I'm just going to put it at 0, 0, 0. I'm going to hide this plane for now. And I'm also going to create this bone here, which is just going to be a cube. And I'm also going to, maybe I'll set this guy. I will put him over here. I'm going to call this guy B underscore root. It's going to be my root bone. And I'm going to call this guy B underscore animation or whatever you call it. B is for bone. So I'm just going to go my front viewport here, and I'm just going to animate this thing. It's not going to be super great. Right? I'm just going to maybe start in the middle here. I'm probably going to start with like a crazier kind of motion here or setup. And I'm just going to kind of, let's see, over here, maybe I'll move it up a little bit. Okay, so let's take a look at this animation. So it's not very good. It's probably a little too much rotation, actually. Maybe I'll start on a different. Oh my God, stop it. Start and end, something like that. How's that? Okay. Now I'll copy that key over at the end again. So now we have a little looping animation of just things bobbing up and down. It's not very good. Maybe too much rotation. Just gonna do like a little bobbing animation. It's nothing great. And that's it. That's gonna be my animation. I'm gonna export this thing. Gonna make sure my animation's out to export. It's a new feature. That's cool. Be good. Okay. So bring this in here into Unity. Folder is empty. Did you not actually export that 3D Max? Okay, one more time. Okay, so there we go. We got Bob in here. Let's take a look at what Bob looks like. Bob should have animation. We're going to set it to be looping as well. He's got a generic rig. Good. So we got Bob. Bob has an animation. Now he probably won't play by default, I'm assuming, right? Okay. So we'll have to create a little animator for Bob. Okay, so let's throw an animator on here. And it'll create an animation controller. You probably remember this from your animation class a little bit. Okay. And Bob's animation, probably not labeled. No, Bob. It's just going to be called Bob. Okay, we'll take Bob's animation, we'll throw it in here, and it's going to be the entry one, so it's just going to play automatically, and it's set to looping, so it should loop. On my animator, I'm going to drag in my new animation controller, and when I hit play, Bob is not playing. Why are you not playing, Bob? Did I put it? I maybe put it on the wrong part. There you go, Bob. Now Bob's bobbing. So I've created a simple little animation. It's just a looping idle of nothing. So imagine this was space debris, an enemy idle, could be anything like that. I've created it and it has nothing on it. It's just a cube. Now the nice thing about creating animations like this, I can turn off this mesh renderer and this animation is still going to move. It's still going to do what it needs to do. And if I go and I have, let's say, some space debris, so let's say I have a cube, I can put this cube onto the animation root bone, and it's going to inherit that animation from Bob. And I can take and I can duplicate these, rotate them in different places. Scale them up, and now when I hit play, all of my stuff will play together. Now it still looks a little silly because it's all playing at the same time. So even though I rotated them, it doesn't look super great. But I've now been able to attach different objects to this animation. So again, let's say this is space debris or something floating around. You know, I can put different objects in here. It doesn't matter what the object is. Right? It will bob around and it will do its job. Now, the one thing we want to do is we want to have some variety in this case. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Bob animation controller and we're going to duplicate it and open it up. And we're going to change some things over here. We're going to start by changing the speed a little bit. So this Bob's going to be half speed. And there's also a cycle offset. We could say where do we want him to start? Okay, and we're going to do that to a couple Bobs. This one's going to be point, I don't know, 6.6 and 0.8. And on our different Bobs, we're going to put the different animation controllers, Bob 1 and Bob 2. And now when I hit play, all my Bobs are offset. And they're all playing the same animation at slightly different speeds and at different start times, and they look very different. And if this was just some background stuff, right, moving grass, swaying trees, space debris floating around, characters idling by, doing some other stuff, NPCs patrolling, but they're not actually like interactable, they're just for show. This is a nice modular way to use animations and reuse them for different aspects of your environment and not have to worry about creating something custom every single time. This is really good for cinematics, other things like that as well. So I just wanted to go over this because not a lot of people think about animation in that kind of way. it's just it's a good thing to know, right? Just because some people get really carried away and they want to create a custom animation for every single thing, and that's not very practical in the time that you have. So you got to try and be creative about it, be modular, and think about all aspects of design in that kind of iterative and modular kind of fashion. So that's all. It's a quick little thing about animation. We did this in Rock and Rumble with our gears as well. I animated one gear that had X amount of spokes, so it had like 14 spokes, and I had it going around, the snappy little animation, doing 14 little movements. Any other gear that had 14 spokes could use the same animation. Doesn't matter how big they were, how what was their radius, they would all work with that animation. I could reverse the animation, I could play it backwards, and they would all snap together really well. And then I built all my gears to be halves or doubles of those amount of spokes, and then they could use similar animations and all hook up together. So it was a nice way to save a lot of time and make a level look really complicated without actually doing any other work. So anyways, thank you.